I gave up my chance to attend university and used the tuition money for Qingjiaming. For 4 years, he enjoyed the leisurely life I provided for him. Meanwhile, I struggled endlessly in the mire of life. When he graduated, his wedding to the campus beauty made headlines across the city, and yet, I died from overwork on a stormy night. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to being 18. Qingjiaming held me tightly and vowed, "Qingqing, I'll come back to marry you after I graduate." 1. There was the sound of a train rushing by beside my ear. I opened my eyes and found Qingjiaming holding me in his arms. He said, "Qingqing, don't worry, I will never let you down. Once I graduate and find a job, we'll get married." I rubbed my eyes and realized it wasn't a dream. All the pain from my past life flooded my mind. I shoved him hard, and he stumbled, falling to the ground, but still clutching the money I had given him tightly. His expression was stunned. "Qingqing, what's wrong?" I walked up to him, crouched down, and without hesitation, snatched the money back. "Qingjiaming, I've changed my mind." His lips trembled. "What do you mean?" I stood up, brushed off the dust on my clothes. "I'm keeping this money to pay for my own university." Hearing this, he panicked, his eyes widening in disbelief. "What about me?" Then he grabbed me in a panic. "Qingqing, didn't we agree? This money is for me to use. I'm a guy, and with a college degree. I'll have an easier time finding a job. You're a girl, and a high school diploma is enough. Once I graduate, we'll get married." In my previous life, it was indeed like this. Qingjiaming and I grew up together, and our parents arranged a betrothal for us. Both of our families were struggling financially, and my parents were already against me continuing my education. So, after we both got into college, I worked at a factory for the entire summer, earning my own tuition. But the day before school started, Qingjiaming found me and said he couldn't afford to go. I gave in to his pleading, gave him all the money and ruined my own future. This time, I won't do that again. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my clothes. His voice trembled. "Qingqing, help me." I glanced at him, my determination growing stronger. "Qingjiaming, your future shouldn't be about stepping on me to climb higher. The ones responsible for you are not me, but your parents and yourself." "But you're my fiancé. Didn't I say I'd marry you after I graduate? Why are you doing this? A girl like you doesn't need to study so much." I frowned and pulled my hand away. "It's the 21st century now, and betrothal arrangements have no legal standing. I'll go back and tell my parents we're ending this engagement, but regardless of whether they agree or not, this arrangement won't hold." He turned cold, after a long while. As I walked away, I heard him roar behind me, "Liang Qingqing, you'd better not regret this." I went home. In the courtyard, my mother was washing clothes. She glanced up at me as I returned, then straightened up, holding her back, and called me over. "Where on earth have you been fooling around? I haven't seen you all afternoon. Come over here and do the laundry." I glanced at the basin and saw it was full of my brother Liang Zijin's clothes. "You make Liang Zijin do it himself." After saying that, I didn't look at her again and went straight back to my room. She was like a lit firecracker, standing outside the door yelling at me, "You ungrateful wretch, worthless brat, what good are you to me? I'd have been better off having a piece of char siu. I should have drowned you back then." She hurled every insult in the book, but I felt nothing, because this was all too common. 2. My father died in a car accident 2 years ago, and after receiving the compensation, my mother chose to settle. She said, "Your younger brother is still young, and I need to save this money for him." So after I received my college acceptance letter, she directly told me, "Don't go to college, your father is gone, and it's tough for me to raise both of you alone. You're 18 now, and it's time for you to share some of the burden." As a result, that year, under double pressure, I chose to give up on college, then began the life of working odd jobs everywhere. Each month's salary was divided. Part went to Qingjiaming's living expenses, part was sent home to her and Liang Zijin, and only a small portion was left for her own living expenses. I thought I would only have to endure this kind of life for 4 years. As long as Qingjiaming marries me after graduation, everything will be fine. But what I got was the news that he broke off our engagement and married another woman. I died on the side of the road from overwork and chronic malnutrition, working 3 jobs every day. No one was sad, no one cared. I sewed the tuition money I earned from working into my pants and slept in them. Just one day, just get through this night, I can finally break free from them forever. My life is finally starting anew. At 4 in the morning, it's still dark outside. I get up in the dark, and in my worn-out backpack, there's nothing but my admission notice. I left a signed letter of divorce and quietly slipped away. backpack in tow. Only when I boarded the train heading to the university city did my anxious heart finally settle. Standing at the entrance of the university, for the first time, I felt a sense of rebirth. Qingnan University is no stranger to me. In my previous life, I took a part-time job serving food in the cafeteria just to get closer to Qingjiaming. I still remember the scene. I was so excited holding the ladle, greeting him and wanting to share the good news about my new part-time job. To my surprise, he immediately lowered his head, pretending not to know me. His roommate saw it, and he had no choice but to tell others that I was a poor relative of his from the countryside, not very familiar with him. Later, he found me and frowned, asking me to quit this part-time job. He said, "Liang Qingqing, do you know how embarrassed you're making me?" Back then, I just hung my head and listened to his complaints. Even my tears only fell after he left. I thought that my patience and efforts would eventually pay off. How foolish, Liang Qingqing. In this world, no one can be relied on except yourself. After registering and paying the tuition, I followed the instructions to the dormitory. Just my luck, I bumped into Qingjiaming as I was coming downstairs. Seeing me, his face turned ashen. I had intended to pretend we didn't know each other, but as we passed by, he grabbed my wrist. His eyes brimmed with resentment. "Liang Qingqing, do you think I can't go to school without you?" I twitched the corner of my mouth and pushed his hand away. "So what? If you had the money to go to school, why did you have to focus on mine back then?" His face turned purple. "If it weren't for you, would my parents have had to run dozens of miles to borrow money late at night?" After saying that, he stepped closer to me. "Liang Qingqing, you'll regret this. Do you think you're any different just because you've read some books? Even if you graduate, as a woman, you won't find a good job, and in the end, you'll just get married. I wonder who will want you without me. Dream on if you think a black chicken can turn into a phoenix." 3. I slapped him right across the face. He was stunned. It took a long time for him to stammer out, You hit me." "I hit you, alright. Qingjiaming, let's clear this up right now. Stop harassing me from now on, and let's just pretend we never met. Otherwise, I have plenty of ways to make your life miserable." Before he could react, I had already walked away. I found the dorm, and someone had already arrived before me. My roommate, Wenwen, had her parents helping her. One was wiping the desk, and the other was making the bed. She leaned against the doorframe and complained, "The dorm conditions are terrible." Her mom comforted her, "Honey, just bear with it. Our house isn't far from the school, and I'll have your dad pick you up on weekends." This scene really stung my eyes. I've never experienced such scenes in my life. My parents favor my brother over me. She met my gaze as she turned her head. She smiled and extended her hand to me in a friendly manner. "Hello, new roommate." I hesitantly took her hand. My life seemed to be really taking a different turn. On the first day of school, I ran for class officer. Ultimately, I was successfully elected. I dared not slack off. I always sat in the front row for every class, took detailed notes, because I knew this opportunity was hard-earned for me. After class, I went to the cafeteria and successfully found the part-time job I had before. This time, it was for myself. With this part-time job, I can cover my living expenses. However, this is only enough for living expenses. Tuition is still a problem. Wenwen noticed my predicament and one day approached me, asking if I would be interested in tutoring. $30 an hour. His cousin, in 4th grade, takes 4 classes a week. I hugged her in surprise and thanked her for her help. In my previous life, I worked on an assembly line in a factory, earning 6 yuan an hour, and I was so exhausted every day that I could barely stand up straight. Making just over 40 yuan a day, I suddenly felt a sense of awe. It turns out that knowledge can change so much. I started working part-time at the cafeteria from Monday to Friday and tutoring on weekends. One day at noon, I was serving food to classmates at the cafeteria. I spotted Qingjiaming coming from afar. He was in line at my window. I was a bit surprised. After all, in my previous life, he avoided me like the plague once he found out I worked in the cafeteria. Why would he approach me this time? It wasn't long before it was his turn. He handed me his lunchbox and pointed to 2 vegetarian dishes. I quickly scooped the dishes into his box and said, 2 yuan. He hesitated to take it. There was a line behind me, and I frowned, swiped the card. He clutched his clothes, mustered up his courage, and whispered to me, "Qingqing, could you give me some meat?" I glanced at him. "Which one do you want?" His ears turned red. He looked around, and then shyly said, "Could you give it to me for free, my My parents don't give me much allowance. I put down the spoon I was about to scoop the meat with and coldly said, either pay with your card or move aside, there are people behind you. His eyes dimmed, then he swiped his meal card, giving me a much more resentful look before leaving. I rolled my eyes. In my past life, he spent my money while I ate steamed buns, and he feasted on delicacies. He even used my money to chase after girls. He never cared for me for a second. Just took my efforts for granted. I don't understand. Is it just that he's used to my efforts? Why, even now, doesn't he have any intention of earning some money himself? This is what he deserves for today. 4. The semester flew by in a busy and enriching life, and I received a scholarship for ranking in the top 5 of my grade. I also got the chance to switch majors, and without hesitation, I chose computer science. Summer arrived, and I applied to stay on campus. While cramming for computer science courses, I also took on a part-time job. On my way back to school, at the dormitory downstairs, Liang Zijin ran excitedly towards me when he saw me. Sis, you're finally back. Mom and I couldn't reach you. My gut tells me his appearance is nothing good for me. Mom fell and hurt her leg while working, and the county hospital can't handle it, so we need to go to the provincial hospital. When we rushed to the hospital, in addition to my mother, there was also my cousin who I had only met twice since childhood. If I remember correctly, she married a man from the city and later moved with her family to the outskirts of the provincial capital. In our hometown, she was considered to have married well, so she naturally had a bit of an air of superiority in front of us. Seeing Liang Zijin bring me in, she glanced at me and complained, "Ching Ching. It's not that your cousin is saying this, but what's the point of getting into university? Don't they teach you how to respect your elders anymore? Your mother is this sick, and you don't even know." My mom shot me a glare and quickly agreed, "Exactly, once a daughter is married off, she's like water spilled on the ground, and here I am, not even married yet, and this is how it is. I really raised a thankless child, Ching Ching. To be honest, you really lack filial piety. You don't consider your mom or your brother at all. Your family situation isn't good. So you shouldn't have gone to university. The tuition is expensive, and it's a waste of time. Nowadays, being a university graduate doesn't guarantee you a job like it used to. What's the point of a girl studying so much? You're just brainwashed by those news stories. You should have found a job and gotten married earlier to support your brother. Your aunt is only telling you this because she sees you as family. Now that your dad is gone, your family can only rely on Zijin, Ching Ching. It's not too late. Maybe you should consider dropping out of school. Zijin will be taking the college entrance exam next year, and how can your mom possibly afford to support 2 college students on her own? From the moment I walked in, I didn't even get a chance to say a word before the 2 of them had already mapped out my future. I calmly sat down on the stool across from them. He looked at her. "Auntie, Xin should be about to take the college entrance exam soon, right?" Xin is her daughter. It said that she didn't even get into high school initially, and it was only through family connections and paying a hefty fee for admission that she managed to enroll in a rural high school. If college is really as useless as you say, why did you go to such great lengths to have her attend high school and take the college entrance exam? She paused, her expression slightly awkward, but she still stubbornly argued, "Our family is different from yours. We're from the city, and raising daughters in the city is not the same as in the countryside. Besides, we can afford it. Your family situation is so unique. You can't be so selfish. You need to consider your family too." 5. She made perfect sense. I twitched my mouth. "Sorry, but I paid for this university entirely on my own, without a single penny from my family. Besides, I managed to support myself through school, so why can't Liang Zijin do the same?" After saying that, I deliberately leaned closer to her. "Auntie, your words and actions are so contradictory. I'm the first college student in our family, and as a senior, shouldn't you be happy for me? Or are you afraid that after I graduate and find a good job, earning money, you'll lose your sense of superiority in front of us?" Hearing this, she widened her eyes in shock. She snapped at me, "No manners." Then she stormed off, clutching her bag. No matter how much my mom called out behind her, she never looked back. She stormed out because of me, and my mom glared at me as she threw an empty bottle in my direction. "Liang Qingqing, how dare you talk to your elders like that? There's no money at home to treat my leg, and it was so hard to get your aunt to agree to lend me some. Now you've driven her away. Where am I supposed to find the money? Let me tell you. You need to figure out how to cover my hospital fees, treatment costs, and nutrition expenses." So that's what this is about. I spread my hands. I don't have any money. She sat up excitedly. Don't think I don't know. Stop pretending. Jiaming told us everything. How you work part-time and tutor at school. And then there's that scholarship. You must have saved a few thousand by now. Liang Qingqing, don't you forget, I'm your mother. This money is what you owe me. Don't think you're all grown up and I can't control you anymore. There are so many expenses at home. What's wrong with you contributing a bit? If you don't give it to me today, I'll go to your school and make a scene. I'll tell them you got into college and now you don't want your mother. Aren't you eager to go to college? Someone with your character issues. I'll make sure the school expels you. I always knew she didn't love me. But hearing it so bluntly today still stirred up a bit of heartache. I suppressed my impulse and stood up. Wang Ying, coming here to see you today is already the greatest mercy I can offer. Money, don't even think about it. I won't give you a single cent. Since you keep calling me a white-eyed wolf, then I'll truly become that so-called white-eyed wolf, otherwise, I'd be at a loss. As I said this, I pointed to Liang Zijin, who had been standing silently to the side. If you dare to cause trouble at the school and ruin my life, then rest assured, your precious son will suffer even more. His life will be ruined along with mine. I have nothing to lose, so don't bother me anymore. Her face paled instantly as I threatened her with Liang Zijin. She looked at me in disbelief. After a long pause, she finally managed to say, You, how did you become like this? I don't have a daughter like you. I chuckled and said, Perfect. Then you'd better pretend you never had a daughter like me. In my previous life, she was eager to marry me off to Qing Jiaming for the bride price. After Qing Jiaming broke off our engagement, her first reaction wasn't to feel sorry for me, but to scold me for not having the skills to keep a man. The next day, she contacted a matchmaker to sell me off to an old bachelor in a neighboring village, just because he promised her a 30,000 yuan bride price. When she learned of my death, she didn't feel sad, she only regretted losing a cash cow. I don't need, nor do I want, such family members. I ignored her and turned to Liang Zijin. Liang Zijin, you know full well how many advantages you've gained at my expense since we were kids. Since your mother said today that I'm no longer her daughter, from now on, you're the sole heir of the Liang family. With that, I turned and left. 6. Liang Zijin grabbed me in a panic. Sis. I shook off his hand. Don't worry, your mom has money. When Dad had the car accident, they paid 200,000 yuan, even without my share. It's enough for you to study and get married. Later, Liang Zijin came to the school to look for me twice, but I avoided him both times. Soon, the school term began. I quit my part-time job at the cafeteria after switching majors. Every day after class, it's either the library or the study room. Of course, the effort paid off. Not only did I catch up with everyone, but I also ranked at the top. The year 2005 was a time of rapid development in the internet industry. I must seize this opportunity. In my previous life, I worked at a clothing wholesale market, and there was a girl who would come every weekend to buy some clothes to sell online. A month before I passed away, I happened to see her interview on TV. She has transformed into the owner of a clothing company. So, during my sophomore year, I leveraged my professional knowledge to create a website and started selling clothes. On weekends, I would take several buses alone to the garment wholesale market, using the money I had saved to get my first batch of inventory. At that time, the competition was not fierce, and my website quickly gained attention, leading to orders. As a result, my spare time was either spent at the wholesale market or packing and shipping orders. In about half a year, I earned my first pot of gold, with a net profit of around 100,000 yuan after covering costs. I took that money and the order volume from the past 6 months to a clothing factory, proposing a partnership. Soon, the person in charge welcomed me, listened to my plan and creative proposal, and agreed to let me give it a try. By collaborating directly with the source manufacturer, the costs were significantly reduced. With the order volume continuously increasing, I made nearly $1 million in just half a year. Staring at the balance in my bank account, I rubbed my eyes several times. Turns out, I really can live this well on my own. During my junior summer, I bought 2 apartments in the city where my university is located for 600,000, because I knew that in another year, housing prices would skyrocket. One bought near the school, one in the city center. Even if something unexpected happens later, I still have 2 properties that are sure to appreciate as a safety net. By the end of junior year, everyone was struggling to find internship opportunities. Meanwhile, my online store kept growing. A company approached me, offering 30 million for my online store. 30 million is no small sum for me, so after a week of consideration, I agreed, because I used to update my blog while running the store. Over the past 2 years, the blog has accumulated a small following. Starting a new shop with these resources shouldn't be too difficult. It just so happens that the initial goal of opening the shop was to make money, and now that I have the money, I've also discovered the joy of working in fashion during this time. This is the perfect opportunity to focus on what I love and create my own clothing brand. On the day I signed the contract, 30 million was deposited into my account. Seeing the amount in my account now no longer surprises me as it used to. I spent 2 days in my dorm, carefully thinking about my future and making a plan. To create my own clothing brand, it's best to learn some fashion-related knowledge. Therefore, I decided to pursue my graduate studies in Milan. Taking advantage of the weekend, I found a study abroad agency and presented my request. With a year of preparation, I believe that by this time next year, I will be standing in a school in Milan, doing something I never dared to dream of. On the weekend, I was about to go study for the IELTS when I saw Qing Jiaming handing a bouquet of flowers to a girl across from him at the school gate. Upon closer inspection, the girl was Lin Qian, the wife he had finally managed to marry in his previous life. Lin Qian is an only child in the local area. It's said that her father runs a small factory, and their family is well off, so, back then, Qing Jiaming managing to get involved with her was considered a leap in social status. I originally thought the plot would unfold as it did in my previous life, with Lin Qian accepting him, and both of them living happily ever after. However, the next second, Lin Qian grabbed the flowers and threw them to the ground. Her face still showed obvious anger. Qing Jiaming, I've tolerated you for a long time. Today is my birthday, and you think you can get away with just a bunch of cheap flowers? Qing Jiaming lowered his head awkwardly and explained, Qian, I'm a bit tight on money lately, but don't worry, I promise to buy you whatever you want in the future. Lin Qian rolled her eyes. Future, you're always talking about the future. Last week, I paid for our movie tickets, and for Yeya's birthday, her boyfriend gave her a luxury bag. How did I end up with such a pathetic boyfriend? How am I supposed to compare with her? Her voice was so loud that it had already attracted a crowd of classmates to watch the scene. Qing Jiaming clenched his fists in embarrassment and whispered, Qian, can you please understand me? My parents are farmers back home and don't have much money, but trust me, once I graduate, I'll definitely find a good job, and then I'll buy you whatever you want. Lin Qian pushed his hand away. I don't care, give me a week, buy me a luxury bag, or we're breaking up. After saying that, she walked out without a second thought, leaving Qing Jiaming pale-faced and standing there in shock. In my previous life, because of my support, he rarely worried about money and never cared about my hard work, but now, he understands how hard his parents work for their money. After the play, I walked straight out with my bag on my back, and as I approached the door, he turned and saw me. Our eyes met, and awkwardly, he waved at me. Qing, going out. After saying that, he noticed the IELTS textbook I was holding. Surprised, I looked up. Why are you studying IELTS? I didn't want to get into an argument with him, so I casually said, just bored, learning for fun. He nodded vaguely, then looked me over. Qing, it seems like you're doing quite well. Indeed, everything I'm wearing today probably adds up to over 10,000, even if he doesn't recognize the brands. The quality is obvious. I raised an eyebrow, neither confirming nor denying. He walked over, his expression somewhat obsequious. Qing, I heard from someone that you seem to be doing some business online, making a bit of money, and you also get a scholarship every year, right? So, could you lend me some? I'm in urgent need of money recently. Not too much, just 20,000 will do. I promise to pay you back as soon as possible. I looked at him as if he were a fool. Qing Jiaming, do I have sucker written on my face? He awkwardly scratched his hair. No, that's not what I meant. You know graduation is coming up, and I'm looking for internships everywhere. But there are so many college students and so few jobs. Lin Qian has connections, and if I want to stay here, I have to rely on her. I can't afford to offend her. Qing, don't worry, I will definitely pay you back. All these years, you've never been in a relationship. I know you still can't forget me. I promise, after I marry Lin Qian and get her family's wealth, I'll come back and marry you. Okay. I jumped back 2 meters away, as if I had heard a ghost story. Then she pointed at him and shouted, Who do you think you are? waiting for you to come back and marry me. You're just a gold-digging man, stay away from me. Even if every man in the world died, I would never be with you." Hearing me curse at him like this, his face turned pale as he stood there motionless. After a long pause, he pointed at me and shouted, "Liang Qingqing, don't think I don't know. All that money of yours came from men. You say you earned it from your shop, but do you think I'd believe that? Let me tell you, I wouldn't want a woman like you." "Oh, just wait. I'll definitely go back and tell your mom about all the crap you've done at school, and I'll spread the word about it in the village. Let's see how she deals with you." With that, he turned and left. I didn't have time to argue with him, so I headed out and took a taxi to the tutoring center. With a goal in mind, time flew by quickly. I passed the IELTS exam on my first try, met all the requirements, and finally got the offer from my dream school. Only my counselor and my dorm mates knew about my study abroad plans. When they found out I got an offer, they all teased me into treating them to a meal. I agreed without hesitation. Just as we were about to head out, the class monitor ran over with a strange expression, "Qingqing, the counselor wants you to come to the office." When I arrived at the office, I saw my mom and Qing Jiaming standing there. My heart sank. Seeing me, my mom walked over with a cold face, muttering curses. She swung her hand, and I dodged to the side, her slap landing in the air. "Liang Qingqing, you've really grown bold. Did I send you to college just so you could hook up with old men?" I was momentarily stunned, seeing Qing Jiaming behind me looking a bit guilty, and suddenly everything became clear. I stepped forward and stared at him, asking, "Qing Jiaming, which eye of yours saw me hooking up with a wealthy man?" He didn't dare to meet my gaze but still stubbornly insisted, "Isn't that the case? Otherwise, where would you get so much money? And I've seen you several times going to that upscale neighborhood near our school." "Liang Qingqing, I'm not saying this to criticize you, but what you're doing is really embarrassing for us college students." I coldly looked at him and said, "So in your eyes, if I have money, it must be through unscrupulous means. Of course, even I, a man, can't make much money, let alone you, a woman." "Liang Qingqing, you're so disappointing." I turned to ask my mom, "Do you think the same way he does?" She glared at me and said, "Stop talking nonsense. No wonder you haven't come home in years. You must have somewhere else to go. Today, you'd better tell me honestly, how much money do you have?" I chuckled and retorted, "What does my money have to do with you? Your brother didn't get into college, so he went out to work and met a girl. She's asking for a 200,000 yuan betrothal gift. Since you're doing well financially now, as his sister, you should definitely cover this, right?" The counselor behind me twitched his lips. "Parent of Liang Qingqing, these are all just speculations without any evidence. Mr. Son, I'm sorry to make you laugh, but rest assured, I absolutely didn't do any of the things they're accusing me of, and the idea that my mother supported me through college is complete nonsense. For these 4 years, I paid for my tuition and living expenses entirely through my own part-time jobs. She didn't contribute a single cent, so now, she has no right to stand here and interrogate me. Her purpose for coming here today is nothing more than 2 things. 1. She heard I have money and wants to figure out my financial situation. 2. She wants to see how much she can squeeze out of me for my brother." My mom immediately started yelling when she heard this. "You ungrateful wretch, I raised you all these years. Even if I didn't deserve credit, I at least deserve some recognition for my hard work. If you don't give me money, I'll go to your principal, I'll call the police, I'll report you for corrupting social morals, and have you and your little tramp arrested. Now that it's come to this, I don't need to hide anymore." As I stepped forward, she immediately fell silent. I looked around, then spoke slowly. "I do have some money, but it wasn't given to me by anyone. I earned it through my own work abilities. These past few years, I've run an online clothing store. I've been lucky and managed to save a bit. Later, a company took an interest in my store and bought it." "Oh." Qing Jiaming noticed the neighborhood I moved into. "The house is one I bought myself." As soon as I finished speaking, Qing Jiaming turned pale. How could that be?" My mother's expression changed instantly. I knew my daughter wouldn't do such a thing." "Jiaming, let me tell you, are you jealous of Qingqing? Jealous that a girl is making more money than you?" After some tugging, we left the office. I was walking ahead when Qing Jiaming ran over and stopped me. "That Qingqing, I'm sorry." I glanced at him coldly and said, "Move," yet he stood firm. Looking up with a pleading expression, he said, "Qingqing, please help me. I'm about to graduate, but I still haven't found a job. Qianqian broke up with me, and my mom has leg issues, but we can't afford the medical bills. Now that you're so wealthy, could you lend me some money?" I said firmly. No, I said, Qing Jiaming, I don't owe you anything, we're no longer on the same path. Once we step out of this school gate, we'll never see each other again, so don't expect a stranger to help you. He was about to say something when my mom pushed him away. She smiled at me with wrinkles all over her face. Qing, there were times when I was wrong before, but we are mother and daughter, and no matter what, we are family. Blood is thicker than water, and even if the bones are broken, they are still connected. You're so capable now, Mom can enjoy the good life with you. Look, I haven't been to the house you bought yet. Why don't you give me the keys? I gave her a cold look and said, you can't withdraw money from a bank card that hasn't been funded. Then I ignored them and quickly went downstairs. I knew they wouldn't let me off that easily, so, after I finished handling the study abroad arrangements, I planned to rent out the 2 apartments after moving abroad. Before leaving, I also went to notarize my will. All my assets, if I pass away without any descendants, will be unconditionally donated to the Stray Animal Rescue Center. After graduation, I traveled around the country alone. After having my fill of fun, I only had 3 days left before the start of my graduate studies. Dragging my luggage home, I saw 2 figures squatting by the door from a distance. Liang Zijin's voice came, Mom, do you think Liang Qingqing will come back? It's been half a month, and there's no sign of her. My mother's harsh voice rang out, the house is here, she can't run away, don't worry, I've inquired, she's now a multimillionaire. With that kind of money, it's only right she supports us. When she comes back, have her buy you a house and give us a few million. With that, you can find any kind of wife you want. When the time comes, I'll live with her, and have her hire a nanny to take care of me. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my life to the fullest. Ha 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 ha. The 2 of them laughed excitedly. Imagining the scenario, I picked up my suitcase, pressed the elevator button, and quietly went downstairs. After settling into a hotel, I went to the agency, changed the property from rental to sale, and fully entrusted it to the agency company. After staying in the hotel for 3 days, I took the earliest flight to Italy. Before boarding, I called Liang Zijin. His urgent voice came through, Sis, you finally picked up, where are you? I glanced at the plane outside. Just say what you need to say, sis. He didn't finish his sentence before my mom snatched the phone away. Qing. We're at your door. When are you coming back? Your brother needs money, you have to take care of him. You only have this one brother, and you'll need him if anything happens to you in the future. I chuckled softly. Don't wait, I'm not coming back. From now on, you'll probably never find me again. Don't even think about getting a single penny from me. I'm telling you, I'd rather donate all my money than give it to you. Oh, just pretend I'm not your daughter anymore. After saying that, I hung up the phone and threw the SIM card into the trash. Later, I successfully completed my graduate studies in Milan, and I kept updating my status from blogs to Weibo, so I gained quite a few followers. After all the preparations were done, I established my own clothing brand. We opened both online and offline stores simultaneously. Within a few years, our offline stores had spread across major first and second tier cities in the country. When I returned to the country again, it had been 8 years. I went to cut the ribbon at the newly opened store. The shop is located in the most bustling mall in a major first-tier city. I stepped out of the car with a meticulously applied makeup, and the mall security guard ran over to open the door for me. Their eyes met, and Qing Jiaming stood frozen in shock. I glanced at his security uniform without much expression, then shifted my gaze and followed the mall's general manager into the elevator. I no longer give him any attention. After all, we've long since grown apart. By chance, Shanshan from the same village got my contact information through work. She told me that Qing Jiaming failed too many college courses and didn't get his diploma. Later, he struggled to find a job, working as a security guard, salesman, and insurance agent, but his pride kept him from sticking to any one job for long. Time flies, and he's almost 30, with no money, no career, and no wife in sight. My mom, 5 years ago, hurt her back while working and went to the hospital for treatment. During that time, my brother took all her money and used it to open a shop for his girlfriend. The shop failed, and his girlfriend left him. The 2 of them fight every day at home. My mom complains to the neighbors every day. I should have treated Liang Qingqing better in the past. Liang Zijin doesn't work and just lazes around at home, waiting for death. The 2 of them just barely got by with my mom occasionally helping others. At that time, I was lying on a beach chair in the Maldives, reading the messages Shan had sent me. There was no emotional fluctuation. In my previous life, I died of exhaustion on the side of the road, with no one feeling pity, no one caring. And no one regretting it. In this life, they regret it only because I have value. However, I no longer need any of this. My life is better lived alone. Story 2. On the day of his father's surgery, Josu missed the distress call from his white moonlight. His white moonlight died a tragic death on the same day. Josu blamed me for intercepting that call, and he has hated me for the rest of his life because of that. He hates me. Yet he still married me through an arranged marriage. Just to torture me. He said that someone like me doesn't deserve to be happy in this new life. I watched as he answered that call, and then he lost one of his legs. When the sound of crying reached my ears, my mind was in a mess, my body felt cold, yet at the same time, I felt a bit feverish. I looked around in a daze. The nurse was pushing someone towards the operating room. Josu was supporting his mother, who seemed on the verge of collapsing, and he was following behind, and I, like a soulless person, held my things and closely followed the two of them. Lying on the hospital bed was Josu's father. Mom, Dad will be fine. Josu frowned, and there wasn't much worry on his face. The company is in a mess right now. Your father can't have anything happen to him, otherwise, the Zhou family will be in ruins. Mother Zhou was on the verge of tears. Medicine is advanced nowadays. I've also checked online. As long as the doctor performs normally, there won't be any accidents. Josu comforted her. When the door of the operating room closed, I finally came to my senses. I was reborn back to the day when Josu's father had a heart attack. It was also the day when his white moonlight, Su Xian, died. My heart was pounding wildly. In my previous life, when Su Xian called, Father Zhou was being rescued, and the doctor said there was a danger at any moment. My family and the Zhou family were family friends. We both lived in the same villa community and were neighbors. I was also brought up under the watch of Father Zhou since I was a child. I was worried that something unexpected might happen during Father Zhou's rescue. If Josu didn't stay here, he would surely regret it. So when I saw Su Xian's call coming in, I quietly muted Josu's phone. Later, when Father Zhou was rescued, Josu saw the missed call from Su Xian on his phone. When he called back, he couldn't get through. The next day, the news of Su Xian's death spread. Josu was filled with regret. He grabbed my collar, his eyes bloodshot, and threw me onto the desk in the classroom, blaming me for Su Xian's death. If I hadn't muted his phone, he could have saved her. I was the culprit. In my previous life, I had never experienced such a thing. The disappearance of a human life made me terrified. I was also brainwashed by him and thought that everything was my fault, so I let him take his anger out on me. From then on, I became the target of bullying by all the classmates in the school. Everyone said I was a murderer. I lived in a muddle. My grades dropped from second in the grade all the way down. In the end, Josu used the company of his family to threaten me, married me, and then tortured me. He said, Wenli, someone like you doesn't deserve to start a new life. Don't even think about running away. You should live in pain for the rest of your life. Remember day and night that you killed someone. You can't forget this for the rest of your life. I lived in self-blame like this. He made me live in the darkest basement of the Zhou family, living a life worse than that of the servants. In the end, I froze to death on a snowy day, and Su Xian also died on a snowy day. 2. The ringtone of my phone pulled me back from the memories of my previous life. The door of the operating room was already closed. I stood dully at the door of the operating room, looking at the phone whose ringtone kept ringing. It was Su Xian calling. The ringtone gradually grew louder. I stared at the screen, and my fingers were trembling. In my previous life, because of this call, because I meddled in other people's business, I hurt myself and my family. This time, I won't be stupid again. Josu was still comforting his mother, and the ringtone of the phone didn't seem to catch his attention. The environment was too noisy, with people coming and going, and the sounds of talking and crying mixing together. It really took some effort for Josu to hear the sound of the phone. My tears suddenly flowed uncontrollably. It turned out that in my previous life, even if I didn't mute the phone, Josu couldn't answer Su Xian's call. It turned out that all of this wasn't my fault at all. I pressed the volume button of the phone and gradually turned the ringtone to the maximum. Josu finally heard the sound. He frowned and gave me a look. Who's calling? Forget it, hang up. He also knew that at this moment, the phone call from anyone couldn't compare to his father's safety. I sneered in my heart and walked over to stuff the phone into his hand. This time, without my obstruction, how would he choose? Josu obviously didn't expect it to be Su Xian's call. He pursed his lips. and his fingers stopped on the screen for a long time without answering the call until the phone stopped ringing automatically. "Is it your aunt calling?" Mother Zhou asked casually. "Zhou just said it wasn't." And the phone rang again. Mother Zhou clearly saw the name on the screen, and her face immediately turned ugly. "You're still fooling around with her. You're really going to drive us crazy." Mother Zhou was so angry that she was gasping for breath. "Mom, Xin must have something urgent to call." After saying that, Zhou looked at me. I saw that he had no intention of answering the phone at all. He looked at me like that, as if he wanted to hear me stop him. But I just felt that this scene was extremely ironic. Yes, he couldn't blame his parents. Only when I stopped him did he have a reason to excuse his actions. "Lizzie, persuade him, he's really out of line now." Mother Zhou looked at me reproachfully. I curled the corners of my mouth sarcastically. The whole family was expecting me to be the bad guy so that they could resent me with a clear conscience. Why couldn't I see it in my previous life? When I was being tortured by Zhou in my previous life, Mother Zhou just said, "Wenli, bear with it, it'll be fine when Zhou calms down." Zhou also looked at me expectantly. I could clearly feel that he hoped I could give him a reason not to answer Su Xian's call. But I said, "Auntie, Su Xian's been calling, she might really have something urgent. Uncle is in the hospital now, and there are doctors here, we're all here too." I didn't give anyone any advice, it was up to them to decide how to choose. After hearing this, a strange look flashed in Zhou's eyes, and then he walked aside and answered the phone. Soon Zhou ran back, his face full of urgency. "Mom, I have something urgent to go out for. Your father is still lying in the operating room. And you have to leave for that little slut at this time." Zhou glanced at me. "Wenli is here to accompany you." Then he ran out. Yes, I was here to clean up his mess. Mother Zhou was so angry that she covered her chest. Since she couldn't vent her anger, she turned to look at me. "Look at you, you let him mess around. Why didn't you stop him? You just watched him fool around with that woman." Mother Zhou looked at me with a look of hating iron for not becoming steel. I just felt extremely disgusted. She couldn't control her son and instead blamed me. What responsibility or obligation did I have to take care of him, just because we were neighbors, just because I showed my affection for Zhou? My phone rang at this moment. I frowned and looked worried. "Dad, what's wrong?" "I'll come right away." After hanging up the phone, I said to Mother Zhou with a worried face, "Auntie, my dad is in the hospital now. I have to go there quickly." Mother Zhou clearly didn't want me to leave, but she couldn't find a reason to keep me. While she was in a daze, I turned around and slipped away. That's right, I deliberately sent a message to my dad and asked him to act with me. I don't want to have anything to do with this disgusting family anymore. Of course, because of the business between our families, my dad played the part thoroughly and really found a reason to go to the hospital. I suppressed the excitement in my heart. Next, Father Zhou would be issued a critical condition notice, and Mother Zhou would have a cerebral infarction out of anger. Of course, in my previous life, since Zhou and I were there, everything went orderly, and in the end, neither of them had anything serious. But this time, it's different. Zhou and I were childhood sweethearts. We were born just a few days apart, and our parents arranged a betrothal for us since we were kids. We followed what our parents asked and got along affectionately from kindergarten all the way to our sophomore year of high school. Zhou grew up the way Mother Zhou hoped. He was tall, handsome, excellent in both character and learning, and always ranked first in the grade. He was the aloof top student recognized by the whole school. Perhaps the regular life of more than 10 years made Zhou tired of it. In the second year of high school, Zhou suddenly became rebellious. Su Xian transferred in at the beginning of the second half of our sophomore year. She was bright and beautiful. When everyone else was still in the awkward period of youth, she had already put on the thick makeup that all the classmates envied. She wore a jingling bracelet on her hand, hitting the hearts of every classmate who was bent over studying. Everyone was attracted to her, and Zhou was no exception. He had mechanically fulfilled the requirements of his teachers and parents since he was a child and never rebelled. When Su Xian appeared, his numb eyes lit up instantly. I had never seen that look on his face before. My heart suddenly felt uncomfortable. I knew that something was about to change. Su Xian was like a piece of sodium metal that broke into the lake of Zhou's life, which had been calm for years, and made his peaceful life boil over instantly. He finally tasted the taste of freedom. He started skipping classes and having a puppy love. He began to do things that he didn't dare to do during the more than 10 years of repression. I tried to persuade him to study hard countless times. saying that the future was important, but he told me, Wenli, are you jealous? He blew smoke rings in my face and looked towards the toilet from time to time. In the toilet, Su Xian was pulling a girl in, and soon the sound of crying came out. Zhou Su Xian isn't a good person, stay away from her. Zhou Su threw the cigarette on the ground and crushed it with his foot, curling the corners of his mouth. You're speaking ill of others behind their back. Are you a good person? I wanted to persuade him earnestly, but Zhou Su was already impatient. Have I been too good to you all these years? Are you pushing your luck with me? If you say another bad word about Su Xian, I won't be lenient. I advise you to leave me alone. You can endure that boring life by yourself. 6. Everything that happened in the past was still vivid in my mind. I regretted meddling with him countless times. Fortunately, I have a chance to start over. When I rushed to the hospital, my father was sitting by the bed with a drip in his hand, and my mother was lying on the bed playing with her phone. When I saw them, I threw myself at them. In my previous life, after Zhou Su married me, I never saw them again. Later, when the Wen family went bankrupt, I wanted to visit them. But Zhou Su wouldn't let me. I was completely husserled by Zhou Su. Why are you crying? Didn't they rescue him? My father stood up, and it was hard to tell what emotion was on his face. Mother Wen patted my back and kept comforting me. Baby, stop crying. Life and death are just common things. Father Zhou was pronounced dead by my parents. I held back my laughter and explained. Only then did I notice that my father had a needle in his hand. Dad, what's going on? I asked you to act. Why did you really get in for? I looked worried. In my previous life, Zhou Su said that my father died of rectal cancer. I panicked immediately. Dad is fine. I've been feeling a bit unwell these days, so I came to have a look. The doctor said it's nothing serious. My father looked at me lovingly. No, you must have a full physical examination. I couldn't listen to anything else. In my previous life, not long after my father died, my mother jumped off a building and followed my father. In this life, I will make sure my parents live a long life no matter what. Tell me what's going on with you. You used to be so attached to that boy from the Zhou family. Why did you leave when something big happened in his family today? There was a hint of jealousy in my father's words. I sneered disdainfully. Zhou Su didn't even stay with his father. What was I doing there? Let's not talk about his family. Let's arrange the physical examination now. I didn't want to mention Zhou Su, so I dragged my parents to have a physical examination on the spot. The Wen family wasn't short of money, and the hospital arranged some examinations that didn't require fasting for my father that night. As soon as the result of the enhanced MRI came out, I let out a sigh of relief. My father had a tumor in his rectum, but the tumor wasn't very big. As long as it was removed as soon as possible, there wouldn't be any problems later. After the doctor looked at the film, he praised me repeatedly. Your daughter is really a lucky star. The problem in the rectum is usually very difficult to find. Generally, when there are symptoms in the body, it's basically the late stage, and it's hard to detect it in a normal physical examination. The doctor looked emotional. My father also thought that I was his lucky star and praised me for how excellent I was to the doctor with a look of relief. I stood aside. For such praise, I just felt ashamed. I wasn't a lucky star. I killed them in my previous life. 7. The next day, I asked for leave from the teacher and prepared to accompany my father for the surgery in the early morning. Just after my father's surgery in the morning, someone was sent to the emergency room of the hospital. I took a look and was shocked. The person lying on the hospital bed was none other than Zhou Su. He was covered in blood, and the wound on his left leg was extremely shocking. A police officer was following behind. When I saw this, I quickly grabbed him. Officer, what happened? The police officer looked at me, frowned, and scolded. Don't pry, officer. I know that person. He's my neighbor. Of course, I knew that the police wouldn't casually disclose information, but when I said this, the police officer quickly pulled me aside and took my statement on the spot. It turned out that the police received a report from the public this morning and then found Zhou Su, who was injured. You have his family's contact information, right? Hurry up and contact his parents to come over. My mood turned solemn after hearing all this. In this life, Su Xian didn't die. Did Zhou Su save her? Then, after Zhou Su saved her, why didn't Su Xian call the police immediately? Where is Su Xian now? Everything seems to be more complicated than it appears, but looking at Zhou Su like this, I felt an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. You like Su Xian and freedom. Do you still want that freedom? Zhou Su, officer. Zhou Su's father had a heart attack and was hospitalized yesterday. If we contact his mother now, she won't be able to bear it, I said empathetically. The police officer also sighed with emotion. No matter what, his family must be present in this situation. I directly gave the police officer the phone to save them the trouble of checking. The police officer got in touch with Zhou Su's aunt, and she rushed over quickly. When she arrived, the doctor just came out and asked the family member to sign for the operation. The left leg is severely necrotic and needs to be amputated. Zhou Su's aunt seemed unable to bear the blow and almost lost her balance. She glanced at me standing aside and roared, "What on earth happened? Why didn't you keep an eye on him? Didn't you go with him? This is ridiculous. What are you yelling about? What does this have to do with my daughter?" My mother suddenly appeared and questioned Zhou Su's aunt with a cold face. She didn't expect my mother to be here, and her face immediately turned ugly. She said awkwardly, "It's not that, I just saw that she used to follow Sewer around. With such a big thing happening to Sewer, she didn't try to stop him. If she had controlled Sewer, this wouldn't have happened today. Cut it out. My daughter's surname is Wen, not Zhou. She has no obligation to take care of him. Besides, her father is in the hospital and just had an operation. Should she chase after Zhou Su instead of staying with her father? Is she stupid?" Knowing that she was in the wrong, she didn't dare to say anything more and turned to discuss with the doctor. The final result, of course, was the amputation. In the winter of Beijing, even an ordinary person could freeze to death. Zhou Su was injured, and it was a miracle that he didn't die. My mother pulled me into my father's ward with a displeased expression and muttered, "There's no one in the Zhou family who can think clearly. They want to shift everything onto my daughter. You said we should form an in-law relationship with them. They'll bully Lizzie even if we don't get involved. What would happen if you really got married?" As she spoke, she turned around and poked my temple with her finger. "You too, you took a fancy to that guy Zhou Su. That guy has a cold personality. You'll have a hard time if you marry him. You've been yelled him all along before." "I know, Mom, I don't like him anymore," I said lightly. My mother opened her mouth, and the words she hadn't finished stuck in her throat. She looked at me in disbelief. "You've changed your mind, you really don't like him anymore." I nodded firmly. Zhou Su had his leg amputated because of a girl, such a person. I clicked my tongue in disdain. My parents were also surprised, after hearing me tell the story. They both sighed. I thought Zhou Su had a cold personality. It turns out he didn't think much of our Lizzie at all. My mother had long disliked me always giving in to Zhou Su. When she heard that Zhou Su had his leg amputated for another woman, she had no sympathy for him at all. A few hours later, Zhou Su's aunt knocked on the door of my father's ward. At that time, my mother and I were eating a sumptuous barbecue in front of my sick father as a punishment for him not having time to be with us. My father pretended to be angry but indulged us in our mischief. As soon as Zhou Su's aunt came in, I could feel her face darken, but she forced a smile. "Brother Wen, are you feeling better?" My father nodded and directly asked, "I heard that Lao Zhou also had an accident. Is he okay?" "He has been transferred to a general ward. It's just that my sister-in-law has a serious sequela of a cerebral infarction, and Xiao Su, he..." As she spoke, she started crying. "Wen Li, go and see him, he just woke up." I continued to eat the skewers heartlessly and murmured, "I'll go and see him when he's better." "Wen Li, Xiao Su is in this state now. Even if you don't go to see him, how can you still have the mood to eat barbecue?" Aunt Zhou seemed to regard me as the daughter-in-law of their family. She couldn't stand anything I did. "Aunt Zhou, what I eat is my freedom. Zhou Su's leg being amputated isn't my fault. My father doesn't care about me, so why are you interfering? Besides, Zhou Su has a girlfriend. Don't always drag me into things related to him." I wiped my mouth, collected the garbage from the barbecue, and walked out. In fact, even if Aunt Zhou didn't say anything, I was going to see him. After all, no one wants to see his pathetic state more than me. Not only will I go, but I will also break his heart. After throwing away the garbage, I went to Zhou Su's ward. When he saw me, he just lifted his eyelids. "Pour me a glass of water," Zhou Su said. I stood by the bed without moving and just sized him up from head to toe. After my aunt leaves later, arrange for Su Xian to come and see me. Zhou Su continued talking to himself. I sneered. "Do you know where Su Xian is?" I asked. It seemed that Zhou Su didn't know that Su Xian had abandoned him yesterday. Looking at his usual calm and serious expression, I guessed that he didn't know that his leg was amputated. With an expression of not wanting to waste words with me, Zhou Su stretched out his hand and said, "Let me borrow your phone." I was naturally willing to lend him my phone, but when he dialed Su Xian's number, it showed that her phone was turned off. He tried calling several times, but it still showed that her phone was off. Something must have happened to Su Xian. Call the police quickly. Zhou Su looked worried. I just felt it was ironic. It's true love, isn't it? Even though he's injured, he's still worried about her. I wonder if you'll still love her when you know the truth later. Su Xian is fine. She left the country early this morning. How could that be? Zhou Su was a little disappointed but quickly pulled himself together. I know, she must be afraid that my parents will blame her. How could this girl be so timid at this time, since I dared to go and find her yesterday? I have the ability to protect her for the rest of her life. I couldn't stand his stupid words and interrupted him directly. You were found by the old scavenger this morning and then sent to the hospital. I felt that Zhou Su was starting to doubt his life, but he still stubbornly said, how could that be? Your mother had a cerebral infarction yesterday when you weren't there. She'll be bedridden for the rest of her life. I continued to reveal the news that would break him down. Zhou Su clearly didn't want to believe it, but his expression changed. He seemed to be regretful, but this wasn't enough to break him down. After all, he had always been calm. 9, there's more. I glanced at his leg and said lightly, because you weren't sent to the hospital in time, your leg was amputated. Zhou Su was stunned for a moment. He tried to feel his leg, wanting to prove that I was lying, then he sat up like a madman, ignoring the pain from his wound. He suddenly lifted the quilt covering him. When he saw that his left leg was only half left, he completely broke down. How could this be? How could this happen to my leg? He screamed in the ward, smashing things, grabbing his head, and even slapping himself in the face. He wished it was all a dream. He tried to stand up but fell to the floor. Because his right leg was comminuted fracture, even if it was cured, there would be sequelae. He used to like freedom very much. Because he yearned for freedom, he was attracted to the unrestrained Su Xian, but now, he would never be free for the rest of his life, even if he got a prosthetic leg. For someone like Zhou Su who pursued perfection, he couldn't accept it. I quietly backed out of the ward and carefully closed the door for him. The other patients still needed to rest. In the end, the police didn't find anything. That place was in the old city, and there were many blind spots in the surveillance. Only by finding Su Xian could the truth be revealed. In my previous life, Zhou Su always hated me for not letting him answer that call, which led to Su Xian's death. Because I was young, a life was lost because of my obstruction, and I really felt guilty. But later, I realized that if Su Xian really needed help, she could have called the police instead of asking Zhou Su to go. All of this was a trap for Zhou Su from the very beginning. As for the person behind all this, I believe they will show up soon. 10. Zhou Su was depressed because of his injury. While I took the college entrance examination and was admitted to my dream university with the first place in the school and the second place in the city, I chose the major of financial management because Zhou Su's current end wasn't miserable enough. On the day of my entrance ceremony, the so-called mastermind behind the scenes appeared. It turned out that Father Zhou had an illegitimate son outside, and now he openly brought him home. The reason was simple. The Zhou family didn't need a depressed and useless person. When Zhou appeared, I could see the ambition in his eyes at a glance. He was nothing like his name, which implied indulgence and comfort. He tried hard to fit into this circle, but I could still see his uneasiness. He had been living outside for so many years. I heard that he dropped out before finishing the 9-year compulsory education, and now Father Zhou was going to directly help him take over the company's business. Father Zhou always thought that education wasn't very useful. Talking about things on paper was not as good as practical operation. Zhou Su used to be excellent, so he wasn't in a hurry. Now that this son wasn't capable, he had to help him get started as soon as possible. I went up and greeted Zhou warmly. His face turned red immediately. Hello, Zhou, I'm Wenli, your neighbor. Welcome to my entrance ceremony. Zhou had been looked down upon by many people during this time. I was the first one to greet him warmly, and he was overwhelmed. Lizzie, why are you talking to him? He's an illegitimate son and doesn't have much education. Don't get involved with the Zhou family. After all, you used to have a good relationship with Zhou Su. My parents always told me not to have anything to do with the Zhou family. They thought the Zhou family was too messy. Don't worry, Mom and Dad. I know what I'm doing. On the day of the university registration, Zhou Su came out to see me off, which was a rare occurrence. Wenli, why did you apply for a university so far away? Wait for me for a year. How about we apply for a university near our home together? There was a rare look of expectation in his eyes. I just smiled. Although this sentence really made him seem conceited, I didn't scold him. I have more things that can stimulate him later. I chose a city in the south because I really hated the cold. When I was frozen to death in my previous life, I always fantasized about going to a warm place. I plan to take my parents to a warm place to spend the rest of our lives after that matter is over. 10. After entering university, I studied hard and actively participated in various activities. I wore a miniskirt and played badminton and volleyball. On weekends, I drank and chatted with my classmates in a seaside tavern and traveled everywhere. I actively shared my daily life in the WeChat moments and wrote a caption. The teacher was right. After entering university, I'm free. We can skip classes, drink, dress freely, and fall in love freely. I knew that Josu had been paying attention to my WeChat moments, and this message was enough to break him down. I just wanted him to know that the freedom he yearned for in high school was nothing special, and Su Xian, who attracted him, wasn't special either. In university, anyone can do the things that Su Xian did in high school. I also wanted him to realize that he was only half a year away from the freedom he wanted. The actions he thought were great and the rebellion against his parents were not great at all but stupid. Our parents may have some control over us, but Father Zhou and Mother Zhou weren't that strict with him. He had his own room, his own hobbies, and pocket money that he could spend as he liked. The only requirement that Father Zhou and Mother Zhou had for him was that he should take over the Zhou family in the future. Besides that, they didn't care about him much. He had lived too happily, so he thought everything was a shackle. Sure enough, after seeing my WeChat moments, Josu called me immediately. At that time, I was dancing in a bar with my friends, and the atmosphere around me was very lively. Wenli, is it true that you're free after going to university? Of course, I replied casually and echoed my classmates' words at the beginning. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. Everyone is waiting for me. After saying that, I directly hung up Josu's call. He used to think that falling in love with Su Xian was a great thing. He thought he was greater than anyone else and that rebelling against the teacher was the greatest freedom. Now, I heard that Josu was depressed for a long time after that. Joey told me about it. Since I became friends with Joey, we have been in touch. Joey wasn't good at studying. Sometimes, when he had a headache from reading the company documents, he would come and ask me for help. I guided him several times. He knew that I was studying financial management, and usually, he would come to me for help with the things that Father Zhou tested him on. The projects that Father Zhou gave Joey to practice with also became the projects for me to practice. Under the cultivation of Father Zhou, I had excellent grades in the 4 years of university. As soon as I graduated, I had at least 3 years of work experience. I also knew about 70 to 80% of the internal situation of the Zhou family. 11. After graduating from university and returning to my hometown, Father Zhou suggested that I get engaged to Zhou. My parents disagreed, but I directly agreed with a smile. Okay, Zhou and I get along well. It's also good for the two companies if we get married. At the gathering of the two families, I agreed without hesitation. Zhou was absolutely delighted, but a trace of imperceptible panic flashed in his eyes. Of course, he should be panicking. He had many women outside. However, I didn't care. Josu was the first to stand up and object. He had a prosthetic leg, but he was no longer the healthy and perfect him. I object. Wenli, don't you like me anymore? It should be us who get engaged. He looked at me pitifully, as if I was the one who had abandoned him. Josu, that was something that happened when we were kids. Besides, didn't you like Su Xian at that time? I directly stabbed at Josu's wound. The name Su Xian had long become a taboo for him. She hadn't come back for so many years, and she must have a guilty conscience. No matter how much Josu brainwashed himself, this was an unchangeable fact. Back then, you lost a leg for that Su Xian. In the future, when Lazy sees your leg, she'll think that you lost a leg for another woman. How can you live like this? Josu's mother said. Josu's mother had been lying in bed for 2 years, and Father Zhou couldn't stand it anymore, so he sued for divorce. Now she had nothing to do with the Zhou family. However, Josu still had money, so Zhou's mother's life wasn't too difficult, but what I wanted was for the entire Zhou family to have bad luck. 12. I got married to Zhou soon. After getting married, I went to the Zhou family's company to work, and Zhou gradually took over the Zhou family. On the surface, Zhou was the chairman of the Zhou family's company, but the person making decisions behind the scenes was actually me. After getting married to Zhou, I gradually learned some of the truth about what had happened back then. When Zhou was drunk, he called his cronies and mentioned Su Xian's name. Boss, that bitch Su Xian actually ran away. What should we do now? Find a way to prevent her from coming back. This woman has a tough life. She even managed to escape from northern Myanmar, but it doesn't matter, we have her videos, so she doesn't dare to act rashly. I was lying in bed when Joey opened the door to check if I was asleep. I quickly closed my eyes. Things were as I had expected. It was Joey who had planned this case. As for the reason why Joey didn't show up in my previous life, I could also guess. They accidentally killed Su Xian, and then Joey ran away. In my previous life, Zhou Su had nothing happen to him, so Father Zhou naturally wouldn't offend his excellent son for a Joey who had committed a crime. In this life, Zhou Su was no longer excellent and was even disabled. So Father Zhou naturally wouldn't give up his son Joey. I quickly sent people to inquire about Su Xian's news at the border and also sent people to keep an eye on Beiqing. Su Xian was now at the end of her rope. She had no one to rely on, and the only person she could turn to was Joey. Sure enough, soon my people sent me Su Xian's photos. She was terrifyingly thin, and there were blue and purple wounds all over her body. Only her face was still somewhat presentable. But she looked much older than her peers. Su Xian soon found Joey and asked him for a large sum of money. Joey told her to leave Beiqing. Naturally, Su Xian refused, and she secretly stayed in Beiqing, and she kept asking about Zhou Su. I sent people to give Su Xian some news that Zhou Su still loved her, saying that Zhou Su had been feeling sad for Su Xian all these years. Sure enough, Su Xian was very excited. I was also very excited when she got in touch with Zhou Su. The good show was about to begin. 13. The Zhou family's company was soon investigated by the relevant authorities because of management problems. The news that Joey had broken the law because of his personal problems was also reported. Joey was taken to the police station for investigation. Of course, I had someone do all this. Su Xian got in touch with Zhou Su when Joey was taken to the detention center, and she was also arrested that night. With red eyes, Zhou Su angrily lashed out at Su Xian. Why did you run away? I just thought it was ridiculous. As long as Su Xian didn't run away, Zhou Su could make excuses for his leg injury, saying that it was for great love and freedom. Su Xian's escape made him a complete joke. Zhou Su had been investigating the person who had hurt him, because he was in so much pain. He had to find the culprit before he could pull himself together, worried about being implicated. Su Xian immediately told all of Joey and the others' evil deeds. When Joey was in the detention center, all of his crimes were made public. The Zhou family was completely in chaos. It turned out that Su Xian was someone that Joey had specially arranged to be by Zhou Su's side. Since childhood, Zhou Su had excellent grades and the company of his parents, but Joey had been dependent on his mother, and they didn't even have the money to study. His heart had long been unbalanced. He had been fooling around outside since junior high school and had been keeping an eye on Zhou Su. He watched as Zhou Su was picked up and dropped off by a driver every day, and as Zhou Su became an excellent student in everyone's eyes, he was so jealous that he wanted to destroy him. Once this thought appeared, he couldn't control it. First, he wanted to ruin Zhou Su's good grades, so he found someone to tempt Zhou Su into having a puppy love. He observed him for a long time. He found that Zhou Su didn't like girls with good grades, didn't like cute girls, and didn't like lively girls either. Dull and pretty girls didn't attract him either. Finally, he found that no delinquent student had ever confessed to him. At that time, he thought there was a chance. He had been hanging out outside and knew all kinds of girls from the underworld. Su Xian was the most vain, had the best acting skills, and was the prettiest among the people he knew. He only gave Su Xian 500 yuan and asked her to get close to Zhou Su. Unexpectedly, she succeeded immediately. Things went more smoothly than he had expected. Later, Su Xian took a fancy to the Zhou family's conditions and wanted to back out, but Joey naturally wouldn't allow it. They were not good people, so they insulted Su Xian on the spot, took videos, and threatened Su Xian to deceive Zhou Su into coming out. At that time, Joey was so jealous that he didn't expect a woman like Su Xian to dare to betray him. When I relayed all this to Zhou Su, his eyes were bloodshot, and his hands tightly grasped his thigh. I see, I regret it so much, I really regret it. Zhou Su looked at me while crying. Wenli, you said that at the hospital. If only I hadn't answered that call, if only you had hidden my phone. You said you liked me so much at that time. Why didn't you stop her call for me? If only you had stopped it, everything would be different, and I wouldn't have lost my leg. He tried to morally kidnap me, And I just sneered, Zhou Su, back then, for your great love, you didn't even care about your father. Isn't Su Xian the person you love the most? Didn't you bring all this on yourself? Why are you regretting it now? 14. I ignored him and turned to go to the detention center. Zhou looked dejected, and he seemed to feel sorry for me. I didn't say anything to blame him. I just put two pieces of information in front of him. One was the share transfer document of the Zhou family's company, and the other was a pregnancy test sheet. Zhou looked at me in surprise. Are you pregnant? He was surprised that I could get pregnant because we had been married for 3 years, and I hadn't been able to conceive, so he had already found someone outside to have a child. He didn't bring the child back because it was a girl. Yes, I'm pregnant. But now the company is in turmoil, and there are some problems with the new project. The company is facing a large debt and is on the verge of bankruptcy. I can't hold on anymore. I'm thinking of selling the company's shares to pay off the debt. When you get out, come to my family's company, kick me out of the board of directors, sell the shares and use the money to start a new business. Let's get a fake divorce when you get out. Zhou didn't want to accept that the Zhou family's company was going bankrupt. Over the years, he had become conceited and confidently thought that his decisions were right. Okay, the child and I will wait for you to get out. With tears in my eyes, I played the role of a wife deeply in love. After leaving the detention center, I immediately contacted a lawyer to deal with the divorce and the shares. Zhou Su didn't agree with me selling the shares. Wenli, don't sell them, trust me. We can definitely help the Zhou family get through this difficult time together. I'm pregnant, and now I just want to take good care of the baby, so I don't accept your suggestion. I just want the money. I touched my belly and smiled slightly at Zhou Su. You're not short of money, you still have the Wen family. Why are you in such a hurry? If you want to save the Zhou family, then take out the money to buy back these shares. You can operate the Zhou family as you like next. Zhou Su didn't have many shares in his hand. Most of them had been transferred to Zhou Yi's name. The shares in Father Zhou's hand had also been transferred to my name, which was the result of Zhou Yi's persuasion. Because I had his future grandson in my belly, he didn't suspect anything, and over the years, Father Zhou also knew about some of the corruption within the Zhou family. He also knew that the Zhou family was indeed on the decline. If Zhou Su wanted to truly take control of the Zhou family, he would have to spend a lot of money. In the end, he bought the shares, because without the Zhou family's company, Zhou Su would be completely useless, but he didn't have enough money, so he could only mortgage or sell his assets and borrow money everywhere. In the end, he barely became the person in charge of the Zhou family, and I got the money from selling the shares. It wasn't much, just 200 million. I didn't ask for an exorbitant amount because I was worried that Zhou Su wouldn't be able to raise enough money and would give up. 15. Not long after Zhou Su secured his position, I used the hidden dangers I had planted earlier to make the Zhou family stand on the cusp again. A series of scandals of the Zhou family were exposed. Many projects were suspended for various reasons, and the funds couldn't be collected. In the end, the company declared bankruptcy. Fortunately, all the debts of the company were on Zhou Yi's head, and Zhou Su only had shares. He just didn't get anything. No, he still owed the money he had borrowed to buy the shares. It was tens of millions, not a small amount, but for Zhou Su, who was disabled and had no work experience, this was enough to crush him. As for our family's company, I had been asking my father to sell the shares for many years. Now he was no longer the person in charge of the Wen family's company. When I sold the shares of the Zhou family, my parents flew to a tropical country. I had already handled the immigration procedures for them, and they were going to enjoy their old age. After watching the Zhou family's company go bankrupt, I disappeared. 2 years later, I appeared in Beijing again with a child. It was winter in Beijing, and the cold wind was like a knife scraping against people's faces. I heard that Zhou Yi's mother had left Father Zhou and run away. Zhou Su's mother had no money for treatment after the Zhou family went bankrupt and died. Zhou Su and his father were living in a small rental house in the urban village. When they saw me appear, both of them lit up. But when they saw the blonde and blue-eyed child I was holding, Father Zhou was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Wenli, where have you been? Who is he? He's the child I gave birth to after being pregnant for 10 months. He's 1.5 years old. I smiled. Father Zhou covered his heart and looked terrified. You deceived us. The child you were pregnant with isn't my grandson at all. Of course, how could I give birth to the child of someone as bad as Zhou Yi? I came back just to see how miserable you are. I'm satisfied seeing you like this. They were dressed in rags. Father Zhou was used to being taken care of by a nanny, and with his male chauvinism, he naturally wouldn't do the laundry and cooking. As for Zhou Su, his legs were inconvenient, and he still went out to do odd jobs to support the two of them. As for why he was doing odd jobs, it was because he owed the bank a lot of money. As long as there was money in his account, it would be automatically deducted. 16. With red eyes, he looked at me in great pain. Why, Wenli, why did you treat the Zhou family like this? I thought I hadn't hurt you. Why are you treating me like this? I remembered the days when I was locked in the basement of the Zhou family. I begged for mercy countless times. I asked Zhou Su to find the real culprit who had killed Su Xian, and I begged him to let me go. I just intercepted that call. I didn't hurt Su Xian, and I didn't deserve to die. He just said, just because you think you didn't hurt Xin, you want to escape punishment. Impossible. I said you were the culprit, and you are the culprit. A bodyguard came over and took the child from my hand. I said you hurt me, and you did. Just bear it. The purpose of my return was very simple. I just wanted to anger them, make them lose hope, and make them regret it for the rest of their lives. Zhou Su was so angry that he picked up a brick beside him and wanted to kill me. Of course, my bodyguard blocked it. Should we send him to the police station? The bodyguard pressed him to the ground, and Zhou Su's thin face was pressed against a stone. The stone instantly cut his cheek, and blood gushed out. No, if we send him to the police station, he'll have food, drink, and heating. He'll have it too easy. In my previous life, because Su Xian died in the cold winter, he was heartbroken, so he tortured me in various ways in winter. Not only did I not have heating, but I didn't even have a slightly thicker piece of clothing. Since he was so great, he should experience it for himself. In his shabby house, the landlord didn't provide heating either. Zhou Su only earned dozens of yuan a day, and he couldn't bear to turn on the heating. I heard that this winter was a once-in-a-lifetime cold winter. Zhou Su's extra chapter. After Wenli left, Zhou Su had a high fever that night because of the cold. In his dream, he went back to the time when his father was having surgery in the hospital. Wenli intercepted that call. At that time, he was overjoyed. Great, this way, he wouldn't have his leg amputated, he would go to university. The illegitimate son wouldn't come to the Zhou family, the Zhou family wouldn't go bankrupt. And he could even marry Wenli. He looked at all this with joy, but things didn't go as he had imagined. After Su Xian died, he saw that he had blamed all the mistakes on Wenli. He tortured Wenli, brought down the Wen family, and deliberately didn't let Wenli have heating or wear warm clothes. In the end, she died on that cold snowy day. After Wenli died, he felt a void in his heart. He found that he had long fallen in love with her, but he couldn't accept Su Xian's death. Only by torturing Wenli did he think that all this wasn't his fault. After Wenli died, he went to the police station and surrendered. When he woke up from the dream, Zhou Su had tears all over his face. He smiled painfully as if he had gone crazy. Extra chapter of Wenli. I've always known that Zhou Yi isn't a good person, but if I don't make use of Zhou Yi, it's really difficult for me to bring down the Zhou family. I was reborn back to the day when Zhou Su's father had a heart attack. In my previous life, Zhou Su used me and our marriage to bring down my family. Why can't I use the same means? I can also use marriage to achieve my goal. I don't want to have any entanglement with Zhou Su for the rest of my life. So as soon as Zhou Yi appeared, I immediately came up with an idea in my mind. Zhou Yi isn't a smart person, and he's very conceited. He also has a criminal past. He's really someone sent to me by fate. I deliberately got close to him, became friends with him, and married him. Every time he touched me after we got married, I endured the nausea. In the first few years of our marriage, I used all kinds of contraceptive methods. I don't want his inferior genes, but if I want Zhou Yi to willingly transfer the shares to me, I must have his child. So I directly flew abroad and made a decision after carefully selecting from the sperm bank there. My child is smart, lively, beautiful, and sensible, and I'm sitting on billions of assets, with both my parents alive. I'm a winner in life. Story 2. My mother said she was a raider, and if she couldn't make my father fall in love with her again, she would be eliminated by the system, completely wiped out. I secretly told my father, but my father said, then let her die. My mother also heard these words. She didn't cry but just gently hugged me. Later, my mother really died, but my cold and heartless father went crazy. 1. My mother had been sleeping for a very long time. It was already time to send me to kindergarten, but she still hadn't woken up. I touched her body. It was cold and stiff. It didn't have the warmth and softness of usual. Mom, I'm hungry. I shook her hard. but she still didn't open her eyes. She wasn't like this before. In the past, even if I just made a little sound, she would immediately wake up, hold me in her arms, and gently soothe me. But now she was sleeping so soundly, I pulled the quilt to cover her properly. Then climbed out of bed and picked up the phone to call my father. My father hadn't come home for several days. Aunt Lynn, the neighbor, said that his first love had divorced and come back last month, and he didn't want me and my mother anymore. Aunt Lynn also said that my mother looked very much like his first love. And my father must have married my mother because he mistook her for his first love. I didn't know what a first love was, so I ran to ask my mother. After a long silence, my mother said, "That is something that has never been obtained and something that is in the past." I didn't understand. I began to dislike the moon, because it took my father away from me, too. In order to prevent me from using the phone, my mother set a password for it, and I couldn't call my father. I held the phone in front of my mother's face, but the phone didn't open automatically as it usually did. I said to the phone, "Siri, I won't secretly watch cartoons anymore. Please open up quickly, I want to call my father." But Siri ignored me. I knocked on Aunt Lynn's door, but no one was at home, so I climbed back into bed and lay beside my mother, looking at her. My mother was very beautiful. And she was beautiful even when she was sleeping, more beautiful than the fairies on TV. In the past, my father often looked at my mother when she was sleeping, and then he would carry my mother from beside me to their room. He bit my mother like a puppy. My mother was most afraid of dogs, but she didn't push my father away. The next morning, my mother would always get up late and be in a hurry to make breakfast for me and my father. Adults always say that children don't remember things, but I remember everything. I remember that no matter how flustered my mother was at that time, there was always a smile in her eyes. But my father didn't smile. He would just sit there and look at his phone, and after finishing breakfast, he would go to the company and drop me off at kindergarten. By the way, the teachers in the kindergarten liked it when my father sent me there. I heard them say that my father was the most handsome among all the fathers, tall, handsome, and rich, just like a star. They also said that my father was cold and indifferent to people, and he would be more perfect if he were a little more gentle. I didn't think they were right. Obviously, Song Muen's father was the most handsome. Every time Song Muen's father sent him to kindergarten, he would carry him on his shoulders. How cool. While my father would just lift me out of the car and let me go into the kindergarten by myself. 3. I took out the photo in my mother's hand. We took this photo at the art museum a few days ago. My father originally had something to do and didn't want to go with us, but my mother grabbed him and said, "Just take one more photo. Yaya can look at it when she grows up, otherwise, it would be so pitiful." I saw tears in my mother's eyes, but she held them back and didn't cry. My father finally agreed. In the photo, my mother was holding me in a princess dress and leaning gently on my father's shoulder. My father didn't push my mother away, he quietly let her lean on him. Among the three of us, I was the one who smiled the happiest. Before going to bed yesterday, my mother held me and we looked at this photo together. She kissed my face and said, "I wish I could be more useful. Yaya, you have to grow up bravely and never be afraid." I happily rolled around in her arms and said, "Okay, I will grow up bravely." She also smiled, but there were tears on her face. She had been crying a lot recently, even more than me. Later, she soothed me to sleep. In a daze, I heard her pleading with someone, "Why did you come so early? The time hasn't come yet. Let me make a call to arrange for my daughter. She's only 3 years old. Please." I didn't know who she was talking to. There were only the two of us at home, but I was so sleepy that I couldn't even lift my eyelids. When I woke up, my mother was lying beside me. The quilt wasn't properly covered, so her body was so cold. I held my mother's hand with my little hand, hoping she would get warmer. Unfortunately, it didn't work. 4. After a while, my mother's phone rang. I went to answer it, but the ringtone stopped. The phone was out of power. I charged the phone, but the call didn't come again. I was hungry, so I moved a small stool and opened the refrigerator, but I could only reach a bag of bread. I also wanted to get the milk in the refrigerator. As a result, the stool tipped over, and I fell heavily. "Mom, it hurts." I cried and went to find my mother. My mother still didn't wake up. She was clearly the most afraid of me falling or getting hurt. I cried until I was tired and then fell asleep beside my mother. Then in my dream, I heard my father's voice. No, it wasn't a dream. My father had really come back. I opened my eyes and indeed heard the sound of entering a password. The door was opened, but my father didn't come in. only his voice came. Yaya's kindergarten called and said she didn't go to school. I came back to check, don't worry. It's like this just after the surgery, you go and ask the doctor first, I'll come to find you right away. He was on the phone, and his tone was so gentle. He had never spoken to me and my mother like this before. He was always plain with us, and sometimes even cold. Father. I climbed out of bed beside my mother and ran out. My father frowned when he saw me. Why aren't you dressed? Where's your mother? I stopped and didn't dare to go over, standing at the door of the bedroom. I said in a low voice, Mom is sleeping in bed. He didn't go to see my mother. He just said coldly to my mother, Meng Yao, I'll give you 3 more days to think about it. I'll give you the house and the car here. Sign the divorce papers early. It'll be good for both of us. Something fell in the bedroom. I thought my mother had woken up and ran to take a look. It turned out that the phone hadn't been placed properly while charging and had fallen to the ground. I went out again to call my father, but he had already taken the elevator and left. I stood on tiptoe and wanted to press the elevator button to go down and find him, to tell him that I couldn't wake my mother up no matter what, but my mother said that children should absolutely never take the elevator alone. Once I was being naughty and took the elevator to the underground garage. My mother searched for me for a long time and even cried in a hurry. I went back and lay down beside my mother again. I didn't want my mother to cry. She looked so sad when she cried, and she even secretly hid so that I wouldn't see her. I like it when she smiles. 5. I had already finished the bread, and I could only drink water. Even after drinking water, I was still hungry, and my mother still hadn't woken up. I thought my mother was sick. When I was sick, I also slept a lot, but I would get better after my mother fed me medicine. I found the medicine I took when I was sick and fed it to my mother. My mother didn't open her mouth, and it was very difficult for me to stuff the medicine in. I was sleepy again and fell asleep next to my mother. When I woke up, kindergarten was already over. I squatted on the balcony and looked down. Song Muen was being carried on his father's shoulders, and his father's other hand was holding his chubby mother. Song Muen said that his mother wasn't fat but pregnant, and he would soon have a little brother or sister. I also wanted to have a little brother or sister so that we could play with toys together and go to kindergarten together. When Aunt Lin came to visit, she also said to my mother, Yaya is 3 years old. You and Xiao Jiang can have another child. He's the only son in the Jiang family, and with his good conditions, he's easily coveted. It's more secure for you to have another child. My mother said, a relationship tied down by a child isn't reliable, and he's very busy with the company recently. Aunt Lin laughed and said, what busy? Last month, I even saw the 2 of you in the car in the underground garage. Sister, my mother blushed at once and covered my ears. Yaya is here. Aunt Lin said, it's okay, children don't understand. I really didn't understand. After Aunt Lin left, I kept asking my mother what she and my father were doing in the car and if they were secretly eating something delicious without me. But my mother asked me, Yaya, do you want a little brother or sister? I nodded vigorously. Yes, Mom, have one quickly. I want it tomorrow. My mother touched my face. Well, it's good. With a little brother or sister, Yaya won't be alone. My mother told me that she was an orphan since she was a child and was very afraid of being alone. She also told me that she had a serious illness in her own world and didn't have much time left. A fairy called the system sent her here. As long as she could make my father fall in love with her, she could stay here healthily and accompany me and my father forever. Then does Dad like you? I asked her. My mother didn't answer me. It seemed that she didn't know either. 6. That night, my mother cooked delicious food and then soothed me to sleep before my father came back. But as soon as my father came back, I woke up immediately. I wanted to tell my father that he must like my mother, and then we could be together forever. I opened the door and saw my mother in a red dress pouring wine for my father. My mother is so beautiful. But my father pushed my mother away. What? Are you going to use the same old trick again? He was angry. My mother was stunned, and I was also a bit scared. My mother put down the wine bottle in a panic. I don't know what you're talking about. My father sneered. 5 years ago, was it really just a coincidence that you appeared in that bar? You just knew what I needed most at that time and deliberately got close to me. My mother didn't say anything, just kept her eyes lowered, as if she had done something wrong. My father stood up. I hate being deceived and used the most. We'll get a divorce tomorrow. I'll give you the house and the car here, and Yaya will also be yours. I'll give you another sum of money, enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. I knew what a divorce was. Sumohan in our class, her parents got divorced, she lives with her father, and she said it's very difficult to see her mother no matter how much she misses her. My mother's tears fell one after another, like falling pearls. My father didn't comfort her. Why are you crying? Didn't you scheme to marry me just for these things? My mother shook her head. No, I don't want these things. Even if you didn't have all this, I still like being with you. My father didn't believe her, and he left. He left my mother standing there alone for a long, long time. She said to herself, "You've forgotten. At that time, you held me and told me not to leave. You said you liked me very much. That was the first time I was liked by someone." 7. Mom, I also like you very much, I said to my mother. My mother closed her eyes and didn't respond to me. I kissed my mother's face. My mother liked it when I kissed her the most. She said I was her little angel, a treasure more precious than her own life. Then I smelled a strange smell on my mother. I didn't like this smell. My mother was always clean, fragrant, and soft, and she had never had such a smell before. I went to the bathroom and brought the body wash my mother usually used and smeared it on her body, but it only smelled nice for a while. And then the strange smell came back. Mom, wake up. I couldn't help crying. The more I cried, the sadder I became. It thundered and rained outside. I was most afraid of thunder and hid under the quilt, too scared to come out. But my mother said that I should grow up bravely and not be afraid. I climbed out of the quilt again and wanted to call my father again, to tell him that my mother still didn't wake up even after taking the medicine and that she was very, very sick. But the phone screen was black, and I couldn't find the place to make a call. I was charging the phone, so why was it still black? I thought my father would call. He must have heard the thunder too. In the past, when it thundered, he would come to my room and stay with me and my mother. He said I was too timid, like a little mouse. I said angrily to him, "I'm not a little mouse, I'm not." "Then what are you?" he asked me. I put my hands on my hips and told him confidently, "I'm your little baby." He smiled then, and my mother smiled too. I admit that he was more handsome than Song Muen's father at that time, but he didn't smile often, so he wasn't handsome for a long time. I waited and waited, even after the thunder stopped and the rain stopped. I still didn't wait for my father's call. 8. As soon as I woke up the next day, I fed my mother medicine again. Someone rang the doorbell. Finally, someone was here. Was it my father coming back? It shouldn't be. My father always enters directly by entering the password and won't ring the doorbell. Maybe it was a bad person. My mother said that children shouldn't open the door to strangers easily. It's very dangerous. Who is it? I asked, standing at the door. Yeah, it's me, Aunt Sue. I was so scared that I immediately blocked the door. You can't come in, go away. Aunt Sue was someone even worse than a bad person. Although she looked a bit like my mother, when she came a few days ago, she made my mother cry for a long, long time. It was the day after my father left. In the morning, someone rang the doorbell. My mother went to open the door, and this Aunt Sue was standing outside. She said her name was Sue Rui. She looked my mother up and down and smiled. "You really do look a bit like me." My mother's face looked very bad at that time. I had never seen my mother like that before, but I didn't think she looked that much like my mother. My mother's eyes were gentler and more beautiful. Even Song Muen admitted that my mother was more beautiful than his mother. Anyway, no matter how much someone else looks like my mother, I can recognize my mother at a glance. That day, Aunt Sue walked into our house, looked around inside and out, and then sat down on the sofa. My mother asked me to go and play in the room, but I didn't want to. I wanted to stay with my mother, Aunt Sue said. If it were my Junjun being so disobedient, I would have already taken action. My mother held me in her arms and said, "It's just a child acting coquettishly. How can that be considered disobedient? I can discipline my child, but no one else can lay a hand on her." Aunt Sue smiled and said, "If you don't educate her, someone will naturally teach her a lesson when she enters society in the future." My mother said, "I don't need you to worry about what will happen in the future." My mother always spoke softly, and this was the first time I heard her speak with anger in her voice. Aunt Sue replied, "How is it none of my business? Didn't Jiangshi already ask you for a divorce? In the future, half of the money he gives you will also be mine." My mother took a sip of tea and said, "Then don't forget that half of every penny he has now belongs to me." Aunt Sue left angrily. Before leaving, she said, "You're just occupying someone else's place by relying on a face that looks like mine." My mother looked at her and said, "If you hadn't left him and married someone else when his family was going through the toughest times, how could I have had the chance to occupy someone else's place?" At that moment, my mother was like a female warrior in a cartoon, but after Aunt Sue left, my mother cried in the bathroom. I heard her talking to someone. She said that if my father didn't like her anymore, she would be eliminated, she would be completely wiped out and would never be able to see me again. She also said that she shouldn't have been greedy, she shouldn't have wanted children around her knees after getting love, and she shouldn't have given birth to me and made me suffer. 10. I called my father and told him what my mother had said, that my mother might die. My father asked me, "Is your mother by your side? Did she teach you to say that?" I said my mother wasn't there. And I wanted to tell my father on my own, but my father got angry and said, "Then let her die, you're a bad guy, Dad." I started crying, although I didn't know what death meant, I just felt so sad. After hanging up the phone, I turned around and saw my mother standing at the door. She came over and gently hugged me, patting my back to soothe me, saying that she would always be by my side. Even if she turned into a wisp of wind or a drop of rain, she would always be with me. 11. In the evening, my father came back. He rebuked my mother for teaching a child like me to talk nonsense. My mother listened quietly and didn't explain. After my father stopped speaking, she smiled and asked him, "You must like me a bit, right? If you didn't, how could you have shared the same bed with me for so long? Even if I look like her, after all this time, you should be able to tell the difference. Jiangshi, can't you just like me a little bit? Just a little bit," although she was smiling as she spoke. Tears were constantly streaming down her eyes. My father said, "Don't think I don't know that you put medicine in my wine to get pregnant with Yaya. You thought you could control me with a child, but you were wrong. To me, you're just a physical need." After my father said the last sentence, my mother stopped smiling and crying. She just stared at my father without moving, like the beautiful porcelain doll in my toy box. Finally, she said to my father word by word, "I won't divorce you. I won't even if I die." 12. Aunt Sue continued knocking on the door outside. "Yeah, open the door. Auntie has brought you something delicious. And brother Junjun is also here." I also heard a little boy losing his temper, saying that he didn't like it here and wanted to go back and play games. "I won't open the door for you, you guys go away," I said loudly, although I was very hungry and really wanted to eat something. Aunt Sue stopped talking to me. She directly called my mother's name. "Meng Yao, come out. Let's talk again. You don't have to avoid me like this, we'll still have to meet in the future. Why bother clinging to someone who doesn't like you?" After a while, she finally left. I quietly opened the door, and there was no one outside. Alas, it would have been great if she had left the food behind. My stomach hurt from hunger, and I found an egg in the trash that I had dropped on the ground before. Although my mother said not to eat things that had fallen on the ground because I would get sick, but I was so hungry that I couldn't resist. I carefully peeled off the dirt on it. After taking a bite, I remembered that my mother hadn't eaten either. My mother said that when you're sick, you should eat, and you'll get better after eating. I held the egg and went to my mother's side. "Mom, you eat, you'll get better after eating this." My mother didn't want to eat. I had to break the egg into small pieces and put them in my mother's mouth just like when I fed her medicine. Then I lay down beside her. "Tomorrow, my mother will get better, right?" 13. I woke up again. It was still daytime, and it wasn't tomorrow yet. The smell on my mother was even stronger. I stood on a stool and opened the window to let in some air, just like my mother used to do. "Hey, little kid, it's dangerous. Get down quickly," a uncle across the way shouted at me loudly. "Is there an adult at home across the way? Your child is climbing on the window." I said to him, "Uncle, I'm not climbing the window, I'm opening the window." But the uncle didn't seem to hear me and still told me to get down quickly. I got down, and the uncle finally stopped shouting. The wind blew in, gently moving my mother's soft hair, and the unpleasant smell finally faded a bit. That photo was also blown off the table and fell to the ground. I picked up the photo and looked at the three of us in it. After my mother said she would never divorce that night, my father stopped coming home, but my mother took me to the company to find my father. She said she wanted to take some photos. My mother dressed up beautifully and also put me in a pretty princess dress. My father said with a cold face that he had a meeting in the afternoon and asked my mother to take me home. He also told her not to come to the company casually in the future. My mother wasn't angry. She spoke to my father gently and softly. "This is the last time, I won't come again in the future. Just take one more photo. Yaya can look at it when she grows up, otherwise, it would be so pitiful." My father finally agreed to go with us. When taking the photo, the photographer kept asking my parents to get closer and smile more. but in the end, it was only me who was smiling. After taking the photo, my mother asked the photographer to rush the process and get the photos out as soon as possible. Then my mother said to my father, "Yaya wants to eat at McDonald's, let's go and have a meal together." My father frowned and said, "You should give the child less junk food." My mother smiled and said, "Just let her eat it one more time, she won't eat it in the future." Then she took my father's hand and said, "Really, I'm not lying to you." I also kissed my father on the face and said, "Dad, I want to eat." My father reluctantly went with us. My mother ordered a lot of delicious food, she even let me eat ice cream, which she usually didn't allow me to have. I was really overjoyed. There were a lot of children in McDonald's, and they all had their parents with them, but I thought I was the happiest one among them. I had cream all over my mouth. My father took a tissue and wiped my mouth for me, and my mother took a photo of us beside us. My father asked what was so good about taking a photo. My mother said it was interesting. Finally, she even asked someone else to take a photo of the three of us together. On this day, we took more photos than we did in the rest of our lives. 14. When the sun was setting, we also went for a walk in the park. My mother bought me a rabbit-shaped balloon. I sat on my father's shoulders, holding the balloon and singing merrily. The people around said that we were a happy family. My mother also took my father's arm. My father said, "Don't think you can change my mind like this." My mother replied to him in the afterglow of the setting sun, "I know, there won't be a next time." The setting sun that day fell on the river, and it was very beautiful. My mother told me that this was called half the river shimmered green and half the river glowed red. And it was the most beautiful scenery in the world. If I had known that it was the last time I watched the scenery with my parents, I definitely wouldn't have dozed off at that time. I would have looked at it carefully and remembered it well in my heart. But in the end, my happiness, together with the setting sun, sank into that half the river shimmered green. 15. After my father dropped us off, he was about to go back to the company. My mother said to my father, "Today is the happiest day of my life." Then she stood on tiptoe and kissed my father. "Jiangshi, thank you." My father looked down at her with his long eyelashes quivering slightly. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something to my mother. My mother also looked at him, waiting for him to speak. Finally, it was my mother who spoke first. "However, I still won't divorce you. I won't even if I die." She said it with a smile. And then she closed the door on my father. My father was angry outside the door, and she was inside, crying while smiling. This was the last time they were angry with each other, the last time they saw each other. 16. I put the photo back into my mother's hand and babbled on. "Mom, the more I look at it, the more I think we're all good looking. Mom, let's go and take photos again on my next birthday. If we go every year, can I watch myself grow up little by little?" I thought so, and I could also watch my mother grow up too. The wind was a bit strong, so I pulled the quilt to cover my mother properly. Her hair was also messed up by the wind. I found her favorite pearl hairpin and pinned her hair up. Okay, now my mother is a beautiful mom again. Someone knocked on the door. "Is anyone home?" "We're from the property management." It turned out that the uncles and aunts from the property management were here. I went to open the door, and the uncle who had told me not to climb the window just now was also among them. When the uncle saw me, he immediately said, "It was this child who was climbing the window just now." Fortunately, nothing happened. The property management aunt smiled at me and said, "Little friend, where are your parents?" I replied, "My father is at the company, and my mother is sick and sleeping. Can we come in and take a look?" I nodded and said, "Yes." I led the aunt into the bedroom. The aunt walked up to my mother and wanted to talk to her, but the next second, she suddenly screamed and stepped back. The uncles also rushed in. They gathered around my mother and looked at her. Someone started making a phone call. Soon, the police came, and the doctor came too. My father finally came back as well. 17. My mother died. I found out when I heard the uncles and aunts talking. I didn't know what died meant. I asked the uncles and aunts, but they just shook their heads, and some of them even cried. I went to ask my father. My father stood beside my mother, looking at her without moving. The police said to my father, "The time of death was around 10 o'clock the night before yesterday. Homicide has been preliminarily ruled out for now. The specific cause of death will have to wait for the forensic examination." My father said, "She was still fine when I came back yesterday morning." I told my father, "Dad, Mom was already sick when you came back yesterday. I called her for a long time, but she didn't wake up." Everyone looked at me, and my father also looked at me. "What did you say?" when you came back yesterday, I wanted to tell you that Mom was sick, but you left, and I couldn't catch up with you. I fed Mom some medicine, but she kept sleeping. Dad, when will Mom wake up? My father didn't answer me. His body swayed, and he bent down to look at my mother. You've always been fine, you never got sick. You're sick now. Let's go see a doctor. Suddenly, he picked up my mother and walked outside. 18, in the past. When he carried my mother would always put her arms around his neck and look at him tenderly, but now, my mother's hands were hanging down, her eyes were closed, and there was no longer that tenderness. The uncles tried to stop my father and asked him to put my mother down. Mr. Jiang, the dead cannot be brought back to life. Please accept your loss. You still have a daughter. Don't scare her. My father didn't say anything. He was so strong that the uncles couldn't hold him back. I started crying, and the uncles asked the aunt to take me away first. There were a lot of people standing downstairs. I heard them saying, the child's mother was such a nice person. How could she suddenly? Maybe it was a cerebral infarction or a heart attack. These diseases are getting younger nowadays. I heard that her mother passed away the night before yesterday, and this child has been staying with the corpse. When the property management went in, the child was so hungry that she was eating garbage. My goodness, it's so pitiful. I feel so sad hearing this. I didn't think it was pitiful because I had been with my mother all the time. Later, the uncles came downstairs, but my father wasn't with them. The uncles were pushing a cart, and there was a white quilt covering it. Although I couldn't see the person under the quilt, I knew that my mother was lying inside. When we used to play hide and seek, my mother would lie under the quilt, and I could recognize her at a glance. At that time, she said to me, Mom has hidden well. Yeah, come and find Mom. I let go of the hands covering my eyes and ran into the room. I searched, and finally found my mother under the quilt. My mother would immediately pull me into her arms. We would hide under the quilt together and whisper to each other. This time, I was also waiting for my mother to pull me into her arms, but when my mother passed by me, she was still asleep and didn't come to hug me. The aunt covered my eyes and said with a choke in her voice, Yeah, be good, don't look. I said to the aunt, Auntie, I can cover my eyes myself. When I count to 10, I'll put my hands down. The aunt said, Okay, then count to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. I counted to 10 carefully, but when I opened my eyes again, there was no quilt or my mother, only the car that had been parked here before was driving away. I suddenly realized that my mother was in the car, and once it left, I would never see her again. I desperately broke free from the aunt holding me and chased after the car, crying and shouting for them not to take my mother away, but I was so weak that the aunt picked me up again. I could only watch helplessly as my mother disappeared little by little. Together with the quilt, she disappeared in my tears. 19. I kept crying and crying until I fell asleep. When I woke up, I cried again, crying for my mother. I was sent to my grandmother's house. My grandmother was sitting in a wheelchair inside. What a pity. My grandmother had always disliked my mother. She said that my mother was another river in my father's life, because she didn't like my mother. She also didn't like me. In the 3 years I had been alive, I had only met my grandmother twice. My grandmother asked the nanny aunt to give me a bath. The nanny aunt said she didn't dare to bathe me, saying that there was a taboo in her hometown. A child like me who had been with a dead person should be sent to a temple first. My grandmother was very angry and helped me take a bath herself with the help of a walking stick. As she bathed me, she started crying, saying that she had a hard life and that I had an even harder life than her. I want my mom. I cried along with her. My grandmother called my father, but my father didn't answer. My grandmother then asked the driver to take us to my home. My father was indeed at home. He was sitting in front of the bed, and my mother was no longer on the bed. He grew a short beard. Mom didn't like it when he had a beard before, saying it was prickly. Then Dad would pick Mom up and put her on the washstand. You help me. Mom would smile softly at that time, and her slender fingers would cover Dad's chin with white foam, carefully helping him shave off his beard. Dad would keep looking at Mom and then kiss her. Later, Mom talked to herself in the mirror, saying that Dad wasn't looking at her but at someone else. I thought to myself, there were only the 3 of us at home. Dad wasn't looking at me, so if he wasn't looking at Mom, who else could he be looking at? 20. Grandma talked to Dad, but Dad didn't respond to her. Grandma slapped Dad hard. You didn't cherish her when she was alive. Now that she's dead, who are you pretending for? How long are you going to be like this? Are you going to ignore the company? and you're going to abandon the child. Then Grandma put me heavily into Dad's arms. You clean up the mess you made, don't count on me, a person who has lost her legs. I tried to persuade you back then. Surui is Surui, and Mangyao is Mangyao. You just wouldn't listen, as if you were possessed. Now that she's gone, the only thing you need to do is to raise your child with her well. After scolding, Grandma left, leaving Dad and me at home alone. In the evening, Aunt Lynn next door brought us food, and she kept crying too. She said she was out of town at that time. When she saw me knocking on her door on the surveillance, she thought I was going to play with her and didn't think much of it. I really regret it. Why didn't I ask one more question at that time? Aunt Lynn sobbed uncontrollably. Everyone asked one less question and was one step too late. After Aunt Lynn left, Dad suddenly seemed to think of something. He went to the study, turned on the computer, and after typing a few times on the computer, Mom appeared on the screen. This was the surveillance camera at our home. Mom said it was installed when I was born. Dad didn't like having other people at home, so even after I was born, there was no nanny in the house. The surveillance was installed so that we could see me at all times and be afraid that I might have an accident. On the computer screen, it was dark night. Mom was sitting quietly on the sofa in the living room. A funny program was playing on the TV, and the audience was laughing loudly. Mom, who used to love laughing, didn't smile. She picked up the phone several times but put it down again. Then I came out rubbing my eyes, leaned against Mom's arms, and continued to sleep. Mom held me and looked at me for a long time. 21. While Dad was watching the surveillance, I fell asleep beside him. When I woke up, Dad was still watching. On the computer, Mom and I were lying on the bed, and Mom was telling me a story with the photos sent by the photo studio. This was the last time Mom was alive. Mom, how did you meet Dad? I asked Mom on the computer. Mom tucked her soft long hair behind her ears. It was an inevitable fate. I didn't understand. Then Mom taught me to be brave, told me not to be afraid, and said that even if she turned into rain or wind, she would always protect me. I fell asleep in Mom's arms. I don't know how long it had passed, but Mom suddenly sat up and looked at the air, with a pleading expression on her face. She was talking to someone, but suddenly the sound on the surveillance cut off. We could only see Mom falling off the bed in pain, picking up the phone, and dialing a number, but the other party hung up quickly. She typed a line of words again, and then she couldn't hold on any longer and fell down. But she struggled to get up and crawled towards me on the bed. Little by little, she finally crawled beside me and fell down, pulling the quilt to cover my little belly. Finally, she wanted to touch my face, but she suddenly lost her strength and there was no more sign of life. But I didn't know anything. I was sleeping sweetly beside her. Dad slapped the computer hard, but it was useless. After thinking about it, I still told him, I know what Mom said. I heard it. Dad immediately asked me, what did Mom say? Mom said, why did you come when the time hasn't come yet? My daughter is only 3 years old. Let me make a phone call to arrange for her. And she also said, I couldn't remember clearly. I was too sleepy at that time. Dad held my face in his hands and looked into my eyes. Yeah, think carefully. I tried my best to think and finally remembered that what Mom said at last was, I regret falling in love with Jiangshi. If I had known it would be like this, I wouldn't have come here. Dad listened blankly, and then he pushed me away. He said angrily that I was lying, that I was just a child and definitely couldn't remember so many words, and that I made it all up. I said angrily that I could remember, and that's exactly what Mom said. Dad didn't say anything. He found Mom's phone. He flipped through Mom's phone. I don't know what he saw, but in the end, he also shed tears. I had never seen Dad cry before. It turned out that when he cried, he was also this sad. 22. Later, Grandma told me that Mom's last phone call was to Dad, but it was hung up by someone. The last message was also sent to Dad, and the content of the message was, come home quickly. Mom might have been in a very urgent condition at that time, so she only sent these 3 words, but there was no such message on Dad's phone. It had been deleted by someone. Mom's cause of death was finally confirmed as sudden cardiac death. On the day Mom was buried, it was drizzling and there was a gentle breeze. I said to the tombstone, Mom, I see you. The adults around were all startled and whispered among themselves. Dad squatted down and asked me, where is Mom? Pointed out to Dad. He believed me and thought Mom was really there. I stretched out my hand to catch the raindrops. This is Mom. She said she would turn into a gentle breeze and drizzle to accompany me. My mom never lies to me. 23. Dad still lives at home with me. Although the people around him all advised him to move away, Even our home was said to be a haunted house. Dad didn't care. He only lived in those surveillance videos and the photos Mom took. It used to be Mom who often looked at these, and now it's him. It used to be Mom who sat in the living room all night, and now it's him. After having breakfast, he would say, "Meng Yao, where's my tie?" No one responded to him. He stared blankly at the bedroom where he and Mom used to live, and finally went in himself to find the tie, and then sent me to kindergarten. But not long after the class started, Grandma asked the driver to pick me up, saying that Dad had a car accident on his way to work and it was very serious. When we rushed to the hospital, the doctor was rescuing him. Grandma said to the doctor, "Just tell him that if he dies, his daughter will really become a child without parents. Ask him again, for a 3-year-old child and a disabled old woman like me, how are we supposed to live?" Dad was finally rescued. I stood beside him, and he hugged me tightly in his arms just like Mom used to do. He said, "Don't be afraid. Dad won't leave you." Grandma heaved a sigh of relief, but Grandma also cried secretly. Later, Aunt Sue came, but Grandma didn't let her see Dad. Aunt Sue came to our house and smiled at me, saying, "Yeah, let me be your mom." The nanny Grandma hired by Dad protected me behind her and asked loudly, "Who are you? What do you want to do?" "I'm telling you that abducting a child will be punished by law." Aunt Lynn also came over to stop her when she heard the commotion. "Go away quickly. What are you doing harassing the child here?" Aunt Sue said. "I just think she's pitiful and came to see her. Jiangshi and I will get married sooner or later. When that happens, I'll have to raise this child." Aunt Lynn pushed her out. "Pitiful? I think you're despicable. Don't think we don't know that you came to make Meng Yao angry several times. She died because of you." Aunt Sue smiled and said, "I don't have that ability." Aunt Lynn was so angry that she wanted to hit her, but in the end, Aunt Lynn held back. Aunt Lynn also laughed. "Of course you don't have the ability, otherwise, it's been almost a year since Meng Yao left, and you still haven't managed to make Xiao Jiang marry you. You left Xiao Jiang less than half a year ago, and Meng Yao managed to get pregnant with Xiao Jiang's child at that time. Compared like this, Meng Yao is more capable." Aunt Sue was taken aback and started fighting with Aunt Lynn. The nanny Grandma also went up to help Aunt Lynn. Finally, the security guards came to separate them. When Dad came back, he said coldly to Aunt Sue, "Don't come again in the future. I don't want to see you anymore." Aunt Sue cried and asked him, "Can't we go back to the way we were before?" Dad said, "No. At that time in the hospital, you hung up the phone call Meng Yao made to me when I wasn't there and deleted the message she sent. How can you still expect something else? You once saved me, but you also hurt me. From now on, we're even." Aunt Sue left crying and never appeared in front of me again. 24. When I was in the senior class of kindergarten, Grandma suggested that Dad take me to live in another villa. Grandma said that the house there had the most top-notch educational resources in the city. Dad didn't want to move there. He said I didn't need to compete in my studies and that it was enough for me to grow up healthy and happy. Grandma sighed. Well, being healthy and happy is more important than anything else. Although Dad was very good to me and spent time with me every day, I still didn't like him. Every day after the nanny Grandma finished her work and left, it was just the two of us at home. I played by myself in my room, and he watched the surveillance videos of Mom when she was alive in the study. No matter how hard he tried, he could only recover the videos from the 3 months before Mom passed away, except for the last few days when they had an argument. Most of the time during those 3 months was peaceful. In the morning, Mom would make breakfast and wake me and Dad up. After breakfast, Mom would tidy up at home, and Dad would send me to kindergarten. When Dad and I were both out, Mom would start drawing. She liked drawing comics and then uploading them to the website, which attracted a lot of fans. I once saw those comics on Song Muen's computer. It was a story about a seriously ill girl who met true love. The girl was tricked into a bar by her classmates and almost bullied. The young man beside her stepped in and saved her. The girl fell in love with the young man at first sight, and the young man didn't reject her love. The two of them went through ups and downs together. At the end of the story, the girl recovered from her illness. The young man truly fell in love with her, and they had a daughter. The family of 3 lived a plain and happy life. Song Muen said, "It's so boring. It's not as good as my Ultraman," but I cried when I read it. I knew that Mom drew it about herself. It was how she imagined herself. Mom once told me that she wasn't from our world. She had a serious illness in her own world and was sent here. I once told this to my favorite teacher. The teacher told Grandma, and Grandma found a psychologist. The psychologist said that this was a beautiful lie fabricated by my subconscious mind to help me accept mom's passing. Only dad remained silent. Later, he sent the hard drive to a professional agency for repair, but they couldn't fix it no matter what. The sound of mom's last moment still couldn't be restored. In that year, he invested most of his wealth in a foreign technology company. He was very lucky. When I was in junior high school, that technology company had developed into a unicorn in the industry, and dad became a major shareholder. He was 34 years old that year and still very young. He met mom when he was 20 years old. At that time, grandpa passed away, and grandma was in the ICU after a car accident with her life hanging in the balance. He dropped out of college and took over the company. When he was at his most painful, he met mom and had me. 25. Dad doesn't often appear in the public eye, and people have spread all kinds of rumors about him, saying that he's a lizard man, a person from the center of the earth, and so on. Grandma said that dad believed my words and thought mom was in another world. He wanted to get mom back, so he switched to the field of technology. Grandma also said that he was so stupid because technology and the soul are contradictory. If he wanted to find someone, he should study metaphysics. He was just daydreaming. He wasn't a god. He was just a poor wretch who only knew how to regret after losing something. Only I know that what he's really doing is combining cloning and artificial intelligence. These are not allowed internationally. After dad became a major shareholder, I was brought to study by his side and lived with him in a big villa by the sea. I found a high-tech room in the basement of the villa, and there was a lifelike mom in the room. I touched her skin, and it was as warm and soft as my mom's. And the fragrance was the same too. She even had a heartbeat. I secretly observed her several times. She would smile at dad gently just like mom did, help him shave and tie his tie, and also cook delicious meals. Dad often stared at her in a trance, so much so that he didn't even notice when I sneaked in. Mom was very beautiful, and she was beautiful even when she was sleeping, more beautiful than the fairies on TV. Mom. I called her softly. She smiled and looked at me. Hello, what's your name? Why are you crying? Her voice was exactly the same as mom's. Dad was really amazing. I said, Mom, I'm Yaya. She reached out and wiped the tears off my face. Yaya, I can feel that you're very sad. What can I do to help you? I held her hand and pressed it against my face. Mom, let's play hide and seek again. You go and hide under the quilt, and I'll count to 10 and then come to find you. Okay, okay. She lay on the ground and covered herself with a blanket. I counted to 10 and then walked towards her, but in the end, I didn't lift the blanket, because her eyes told me that she was just an extremely expensive technological product and had no life, and in my mom's eyes, there was always the most gentle light. My mom was unique. She was never anyone's substitute, and no one could replace her. What's more, she said that she regretted it, regretted meeting dad. At that time, I was only 3 years old and didn't understand why mom would be so sad for so long because of dad's words to me. You're just a physical need. Now I understand that because her sincere love and devotion were just considered a nice tool in dad's eyes. Although dad finally regretted saying those words, mom was already gone. What's the use of regret? Finally, I lay beside this doll, hugged her, and said thank you to her. Thank you for allowing me to see what mom looked like before she passed away again. Then I turned off her